When I try the Great Divine Director Decree, I'll try to connect to Jesus by visualization, as you, actually Jesus through you, explained, it never works. Always my visualization fails. The image you explained is not popping up in my mind, and it is not controllable by my mental power. Even I can see deep, deep darkness or uncontrollable, messy images or thoughts. Also, after finishing the Great Divine Decree, I could not receive any images, words, inspiration, any hints. Not just this, but when I was a student of other spiritual teachings before meeting you, also visualization techniques and meditation never worked then. Of course, I know I have some mental problems such as ADHD, I haven't been diagnosed but just guessing, or internal fear, some problem inside me. Does such problems in my external ego block the tool given from Ascended Masters? In order to overcome this, what should I do? Well, I have met other people, at conferences, for example, who have asked me very similar things. What this question is referring to is that there's a decree to an Ascended Master called the Divine Director. And there's a novena you can give where you give that decree 9 times, and then you have a notebook next to you, and you just write down whatever comes to you. There's also in the book, The Mystical Teachings of Jesus, and actually also on the Ask Will Jesus website, it's a visualization you can give where you're tuning in to Jesus. And I have met people over the years who couldn't do it. It's like they can't get anything out of visualization or meditation. And for some people, it's, you can basically say that some people are more focused on images, they're more visual. Other people are more focused on words. So people who are very auditory, focused on words, they have difficulty with visualization in general. People who are more visual, they have difficulty receiving words. So this can be part of the problem, where you're sort of trying to get images, but you really should be trying to get words, or you're trying to get words, but you should be focusing on images. But it doesn't seem to be the case in this, because the person asking has, you've tried both. So, I'm not, I used to, when I was new to what I'm doing, I used to think I should be able to help all people. And I have come to realize there are some people I can't help. Because there is no, you can't just come up with a snap your fingers answer that's going to work for people. And so as the question says, when there is a situation like this, the most constructive assumption is that you have an aspect of your psychology that's blocking you. And this is, as I've described in several videos, a subconscious self, or a conglomerate, probably several subconscious selves that work together. And so the best advice I can give you is to try and work on that. Try and use the teachings and the tools the Masters have given us, especially in the book, Healing Your Spiritual Traumas. And try and work with that and see what that gets you. Now, it may be that you also need to go into some form of therapy. There can also be people who have some kind of physical condition, a neurological condition in the brain that you might need to seek professional help for. So, it's one of those things where as a teacher, as a healer, as a therapist, you want to be able to help all people. And I've learned over the years that, as discouraging as it may seem, some people are difficult to help. And it's partly because as a teacher, you have a certain approach. Now, I come from a certain background with the Ascended Master teaching, certain tools they have given. And so it's a little bit like this old saying, if the only tool you have is a hammer, you think every problem is a nail. So whatever your background is, as a therapist or teacher, you see this has helped for many people, so it should work ideally for everybody. And then you come across people that it doesn't work for, and then you don't know what to do. But so I would say, first, assume it's some subconscious selves you have that are blocking you, and try to work on this. If that doesn't work, seek some kind of therapy, or if you suspect there's a neurological, a physical brain condition, try to get that diagnosed and see what can help there. So what I would say is that whenever you feel stuck, it's always because there's something you haven't seen. That's at least my assumption with myself. There's something I haven't seen. So I need to do something different. Try and step back and approach it from a different angle. And you're talking in the question about internal fear. So I would say a place to start is there. So we have these tools that are mentioned here. The idea is that you get some directions from within about whatever it can be. So my first question would be, are you straining to get something? Are you making an effort? You want to get something. That's always something that can block you. So what I would suggest is try and see if you have that kind of attention. And then instead of thinking you should have to get something, just go into a neutral state of mind and say, it's okay if I don't get anything. I can give this decree to the Divine Director 9 times a day. I can sit there with my notepad, but if nothing comes, it's fine. So that's the one thing. Relax. Take the tension out of it. Not like something should happen. It's not like you're deficient because nothing is happening. Just relax. Say, I'll do it, and if nothing comes, that's fine. The other approach you could say is, do you have some fixed idea, some fixed intention of what should happen, what you should get from an Ascended Master? Then again, try to look at that. Let that aside. For example, give the decree to the Divine Director 9 times, and then sit there neutrally and just write whatever comes. Doesn't matter. Don't think about it. Ahead of time, don't think about what you're writing. Just write. Just write. Doesn't matter. And you could even say, I'm going to write it down, but I'm not going to read it afterwards. Or at least not for a while, if that helps you take the tension out of it. But you need to, in order to get the process flowing, sometimes we have to do something to take the tension out of it, because the tension can block it. But the other thing I would say is that if you can identify that there's a certain fear there, you need to really look at that. The tools again with discovering the subconscious self, because the fear comes from a subconscious self. So ask yourself, I'm engaging in a process where the goal is to get some kind of direction from an Ascended Master. Am I afraid of what I might get? And the answer is, of course, yes, because we all have subconscious selves, the ego, that doesn't want us to get directions from the Ascended Masters. And they are afraid that we will get something that will expose them so that we see them and free ourselves from them. So, of course, there is a fear there. So again, you could, may not work for everybody, but what I try to do is when I see something like this, turn it against the ego, turn it against the subconscious self, and look at it. What am I afraid of? What is this self afraid of? What is the worst thing that could happen here? And why am I so afraid? And part of it is that there's a subconscious self that doesn't want to be exposed. Yes. But it could also be that you, the conscious you don't want to change. And you're afraid that you might get some direction that you couldn't ignore that would mean you would have to change something. And there may be an attachment you have that you subconsciously don't want to change. I can see that, for the first many years on my path. I was in Ascended Master teachings. I was often calling to the Ascended Master to help me see something. But there were certain things I wasn't ready to look at. So it was like I was subconsciously saying to the Ascended Masters, oh yeah, tell me about the things in my psychology that I need to overcome, just not this. This part over here, that's off limits. So this can also block you. And it actually, honestly, it took me many years before I came to a point. I was always open to receiving something from the Ascended Masters, but it took me many years where I was able to actually say to the Masters, you can tell me anything you want. And it's not that there's something wrong in it, because resolving your psychology is a very delicate process, and it can be too much. It can be overwhelming, and you shouldn't try to force it and go too fast. So it's okay that there are certain things we can't look at. I can see things I was able to look at 5 years ago that I couldn't have looked at 25 years ago because I wasn't ready for it. And that's perfectly fine. It is a gradual process. But when you are in a situation like this where you don't get anything, I think it's constructive to at least look at what is it you're afraid of right now. What are you afraid of that a master might tell you? And how would you feel about it? How would you react to it? Is there something you really don't want to change? And at least this can give you something to work with. I'm not saying, as I said, it's not that you can just snap your fingers with a problem like this and overcome it. I can't tell you something that will resolve it instantly. But at least there are some pointers there. So I hope at least it can be helpful to you and get you to a point where something is starting to move. It doesn't have to be this flowing stream that you get this whole notebook full, but at least some insight you can get of what you need to look at in order to move on to the next step. Many times it's like, we can have this desire that we will see something that will resolve everything. We will overcome all our problems. But the reality is that many times we get one little insight that takes us up to the next step. And then we can get one little insight that takes us to the next step. And that's how we need to keep going for a while until we come to these, like a plateau, we can see, no, now I've really made progress. So maybe you're expecting too much, or maybe you're resisting. So look at that and see what happens.